The DEA trying to bust the real drug pushers, the pharmaceutical companies. Drug epidemic. Major DEA opioid case falters. Florida became ground zero for the nation's prescription opioid crisis. By Lenny Bernstein and Scott Hyam. The Washington Post. To combat an escalating opioid epidemic, the Drug Enforcement Administration trained its sights in 2011 on Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals, one of the nation's largest manufacturers of the highly addictive generic painkiller Oxycontin. It was the first time the DEA had targeted a manufacturer of opioids for alleged violations of laws designed to prevent diversion of legal narcotics to the black market. And it would become the largest prescription drug case the agency has pursued. Ultimately, the DEA and federal prosecutors would contend that the company ignored its responsibility to report suspicious orders as 500 million of its pills ended up in Florida between 2008 and 2012. 66. See case, A2. This February 19, 2013, file photo, shows Oxycontin pills arranged for a photo at a pharmacy in Montpelier, VT. According to a Washington Post investigation into the sale and distribution of opioids and oxycodone tablets, Florida's lax laws, dishonest doctors, and unscrupulous pharmacists had turned the state into ground zero for the nation's prescription opioid crisis. The Associated Press Archive. Case. Continued from May 1. % of all oxycodone sold in the state. Government investigators alleged in internal documents that the company's lack of due diligence could have resulted in nearly 44,000 federal violations and exposed it to $2.3 billion in fines, according to confidential government records and emails obtained by the Washington Post. But 6 years later, after 4 investigations that spanned 5 states, the government has taken no legal action against Mallinckrodt. Instead, the company has reached a tentative settlement with federal prosecutors, according to sources familiar with the discussions. Under the proposal, which remains confidential, Mallinckrodt would agree to pay a $35 million fine and admit no wrongdoing. Mallinckrodt's response was that everyone knew what was going on in Florida but they had no duty to report it, according to an internal summary of the case prepared by federal prosecutors and obtained by the Post. The case shows how difficult it is for the government to hold a drug manufacturer responsible for the damage done by its product. DEA investigators appalled by rising overdose deaths said they worked for years to build the biggest case of their careers only to watch it falter on uncertain legal territory and in the face of stiff resistance from the company. They just weren't taking this seriously, and people were dying, said a former law enforcement official who spoke on the condition of anonymity because the case is pending. People were dying all over the place. It wasn't their kids, their wives, their husbands, their brothers. It was some hillbilly in Central Florida, so who cares? In a statement, a Mallinckrodt spokesman said the company has worked hard to fight drug diversion. Mallinckrodt has long been a recognized leader in developing and sharing best practices related to the prevention of opioid diversion and misuse, and has continuously invested significant resources to address the serious drug epidemic, the statement said. We are proud of the programs and initiatives we've developed to ensure appropriate use of pain medication and, most importantly, to deter such medications from ending up in the wrong hands. Officials at the DEA declined to comment for this article. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit, which is handling the case, issued a statement. Our office works diligently to use all the legal tools available to us to hold corporations responsible for their actions, Acting U.S. Attorney Daniel Lemus said. This is particularly true in a highly regulated industry such as the manufacture of opioids. As this case is still in settlement negotiations, we cannot comment on the specifics of the matter. Under federal law and DEA policy, pharmaceutical companies such as Mallinckrodt are required to know their customers and monitor the pattern, frequency, and amounts of drug orders. When suspicious orders occur, companies must immediately notify the agency or risk losing their DEA licenses to sell or manufacture controlled substances, as well as face civil and criminal penalties. According to the documents and sources familiar with the settlement talks, Mallinckrodt was willing to acknowledge its responsibility to report suspiciously large orders placed by its customers, a network of wholesale distributors. But the company said that it should not be held responsible for what happens to its drugs once the distributors send them to their customers, such as doctors and pharmacies. Mallinckrodt contended that the DEA has never required manufacturers to know their customers' customers and that the agency provided the company with conflicting advice about its responsibilities under the law. Mallinckrodt took unprecedented steps beyond the legal obligations of a manufacturer. Mallinckrodt began monitoring downstream sales between wholesalers and pharmacies, and proactively informed both its customers and the DEA of its findings, said Brian O'Connor, a lawyer for the company. The company continues to enhance its anti-diversion programs to this day. The proposed $35 million settlement comes as the nation's prescription opioid epidemic continues to worsen, with nearly 180,000 lives lost to overdoses since 2000. The Post reported in October that the DEA's civil and administrative enforcement efforts against the mammoth wholesale distributors that deliver painkillers to pharmacies stalled in the face of a stepped-up lobbying campaign by the drug industry. The Mallinckrodt case was something different, an aggressive attempt to hold a drug manufacturer accountable. Mallinckrodt was founded 150 years ago in St. Louis and became the leading supplier of chemicals for the emerging photography industry. Now based in the United Kingdom after corporate acquisitions, Mallinckrodt is one of the nation's largest manufacturers of Oxycontin, a powerful opioid made from the natural painkiller found in poppies. When you get to the manufacturing level, it's hard to prove that they knew what was happening, another law enforcement official familiar with the investigation said. But they were making the product, they were selling it to the country's largest distributors, and they had a responsibility under the law to detect and report orders that were suspicious. These orders were beyond suspicious. Story can end here, optional material follows. The first hint that Mallinckrodt might pose a problem for the DEA came not from Florida but from Tennessee. On July 7, 2009, members of a Tennessee drug task force in a sting operation seized several 100-tablet bottles of Mallinckrodt-made Oxycontin. Task force agents alerted Mallinckrodt. The company's lot numbers were printed on the labels, allowing for easy tracking of the pills. 3 days later, Mallinckrodt responded that the Oxycontin had been prescribed by Barry Schultz, a doctor who ran a medical clinic in Delray Beach, Florida. The company said that one of its distributors, Sunrise Wholesale of Broward County, Florida, had sent 20,400 tablets of Oxycontin to Schultz in the previous year. The Florida Department of Health had just issued an administrative complaint against Schultz for prescribing Oxycontin outside the course of his professional practice. His medical office had become a thoroughfare for those seeking easy access to drugs, records show. Copyright 2017 Herald Tribune, all rights reserved. Restricted use only April 3, 2017. Powered by Tnavia.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, you know, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, you know, at least I can do it. You know, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.